Do you want to know how to get kids to change their mindset? It's actually possible to create an environment where they can learn to self-assess. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about changing your mindset. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what a mindset is. And then we'll talk about the steps that you can go through to help your children understand mindset and how to help them change their mindset. One thing you need to understand about mindset is that you choose your mindset. A lot of people think the way they think about things happen to them. They become very passive, but it's just not true. Even though experiences happen to us, people say words to us, our mindset is something that we get to select. Now, there is some grooming of a mindset that occurs, especially during childhood and adolescence. The people we surround ourselves with can make a difference on mindset. So for instance, if we're around a person who's negative all the time, constantly negative, and the only way that we know how to bond with that person is to be negative, then we could end up getting trained to be negative when we want to bond with other people. But basically, we're still just choosing to utilize a skill that we've developed for ourselves. So we have to remember there's always an element of choice in there with mindset. This is what liberates us and gives us the opportunity and the freedom to change that mindset whenever we desire to. Now, I know some people think that some who are neurodiverse or maybe struggle with different disabilities are not able to change mindset about things. That's actually not true. They can. I just watched a movie recently. I don't know when it came out, but it's called Temple Grandin. And it's about Temple Grandin, who was an autistic woman who really was an innovator, changed the cattle industry forever because of her work that she did with cattle. And she created some very interesting coping mechanisms for herself with some of her high anxieties related to her autism. And she never wanted anyone to touch her. But then there was this point later in life where she knew she needed to learn how to touch people. And she had practiced touching one of her roommates in college, like just holding her hand and guiding her somewhere because her roommate was blind. And so she realized she needed to overcome that, or she wouldn't be able to have this friend. And so her mother, who had been waiting to be hugged forever, finally, one day, here's this grown woman, Temple Grandin, and she's coming toward her mom and standing there and being like, okay, I'm ready to be hugged now. You know, gently, but she didn't ever want to be touched or hugged. And then suddenly she decided that it was okay. And she wanted to work toward it. She wanted to learn how to be hugged. What an amazing experience. What an amazing story. It really is a cool movie if you want to see it. Anyway, so I looked at her story, and having, worked with so many neurodiverse youth as a therapeutic treatment care parent for a lot of years, as well as working with other people's families, I recognized a lot of similarities with many other case studies that I've been part of. Temple Grandin had pretty severe autism, and she was able to make choices that made her an incredible success. So how do we do that? How do we change our mindset no matter where we're at, neurologically or physically or anything? We can make choices. So one thing we need to start with is we need to recognize that whatever we pre-teach ourselves sticks longer. This means we want to take some time to deliberately train ourselves for key things that we can do to be successful in life. Now, on this channel, if you've subscribed here already, then you've probably already heard about the 4 basic skills. I talk about them all the time, and that's because it's kind of the starting place for a lot of people for self-government. What are those 4 basic skills? How do I use them? What are the steps of the 4 basic skills? How do I help my children use them? The 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. Each one of these 4 basic skills has a skill set attached to it. For instance, to accept no answers, there's 4 steps. You look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body, you say, okay, or you ask to disagree appropriately, and then you drop the subject. That's how a person who is healthy behaviorally is able to handle disappointments and when things don't go their way in life. So you teach these types of skills to your children, and then you don't stop the teaching there, but you also teach them how you will prepare them to use the skills. You teach them how you will correct them and give them feedback, whether they use the skills or whether they don't use the skills. And then you teach them how to do those things for themselves, because really that's what it means to be self-governing, is there comes a point where you choose to change your own heart, where you choose to change your own mind. When we really get a desire to be self-governed, our heart shifts. We want to be a different version of ourselves. And this usually is accompanied by a mindset change as well, meaning that we choose to see the same circumstance that we've always seen before in a new way. So when I think about Temple Grandin, she always saw touching as bad, touching as painful, as uncomfortable, as something that she did not want to have happen, even a hug from her own mother. And then she realized through all of her research and all of her work and maturing as she was growing with other people that touch was normally seen as something that was good and that was healthy and actually calmed her down, and that she was getting touched by a machine because she invented a machine to touch her, to give her a kind of a hug, and that was helping her. So if she could change her mindset in that way, then maybe she could change her mindset about being touched by another person. And she worked herself to that place. That is how mindset shifted. She wanted something different in her heart for her relationship with her mother. It was beautiful. So we have to have desire to have a change of heart and to have a change of mindset, but we also need skills. And we also need to recognize it's not going to be perfect at first. We're going to keep making mistakes. Let's say a person has an addiction or some habit that's very troublesome to them. They might say, okay, I'm not going to think that anymore. I'm not going to watch that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. And then suddenly they're tempted to do it and they find themselves doing it. They might feel like they're a hopeless cause. It's not true. Mindset shift takes a lot of practice. And usually what is required is recognizing what thought happens in your brain right before you do that action. So if I'm a child, before I try to say a funny joke, I might be thinking something like, I want somebody to look at me, or I want someone to pay attention to me. And maybe there's another way that I think it as a child, because usually their thoughts are a little bit different, a little more childlike. But they want to be noticed maybe, or they want to feel important or understood or something. And so that's the thought that they have right before they do the action. So what if they could recognize, oh, I'm thinking I want to feel important, or maybe they're thinking I want to get attention. Maybe they can recognize that thought and then tell themselves stop. They might be able to question the thought, challenge the thought and say, do I need to feel attention right now? Is it okay if anybody else has attention sometimes? Or maybe they would put a new thought in place, which is you don't always have to be the center of attention. You can choose to just be calm and wait until someone notices you. That's okay. That is a super mature thought, a very powerful thought, and they are totally capable of doing it. But usually you have to talk them through the process first. Then they have to give themselves a stop, then say no answer on that thought. Now I'm going to give myself an instruction to use this other thought, and then they follow through. And if you're smart, you'll have them follow up with you so they can check back with you so that you can praise them for it and show them that you are noticing their ability to have a mindset shift too. This is a super empowering process. Many adults never learn how to do it because they are afraid of analyzing. What if we taught our children as children that it is okay to recognize a thought in your head is potentially damaging, and to replace it with another productive thought so that you can be in complete control, complete self-government of yourself. Self-government is the root of freedom. When a person is self-governing, they feel like they can accomplish anything because they can solve their problems. Most people have to be notified about a problem and then be instructed on a skill to help them develop the solution for the problem. And they probably have to have that happen multiple times before they get to a place where they just say, where's my problem? How do I solve it? What am I going to stop thinking? And what am I going to start thinking? It's a very mature process, but if we develop it over time, they can get there. So is mindset an immediate change? No, it's a process. We need to embrace the process, which means we should not take it personal and we should not get frustrated when our children have a hard time and they're rigid in their thoughts or they feel like they can't do it. We need to keep at it, keep pre-teaching them in a positive direction. So there is something I would like to give to you as a gift to help you with your own self-government, with your own mindset shift. And it is a toolkit all about calmness. So calmness is one thing that I teach. In my class, The Power of Calm, there's a skill set for calmness, but in the toolkit, there are 10 tools for calmness. Now, these 10 tools will help prepare the way for you to use the calmness skill set as well as the other skill sets of self-government. So you can find this Calm Parenting Toolkit right now for free. It's a free gift if you go to teachingselfgovernment.com. I'll see you there.